Now, Kaity Tong, Jack Cafferty, Jerry Gerard with sports, and Bob Harris with the weather. The Emmy Award-winning Channel 11 News at 10.
Good evening to you. Tonight we get our first horrifying glimpse of what life was like for little Kaity Beers during the 16 days and nights she was held prisoner.
Police releasing a videotape of a tiny dungeon smaller than a prison cell where Kaity spent her lonely days and nights. Long Island correspondent Drew Scott reports on the ingenious and evil house of horrors built by John Esposito, a man they called a family friend.
Inside the detached garage belonging to John Esposito was what police are now describing as a dungeon of horror. At a news conference, detectives took the unusual step of releasing video footage of the subterranean bunker, soundproofed and secretly built a year and a half ago, 7 feet beneath a false wood cabinet. Kaity was locked up there for 16 terror-filled days and nights, police say, because she refused Esposito's sexual advances.
She was taken to this room. I'm not going to go into the account, but apparently, from Kaity's account, there were physical advances. I'm not going to describe them or go into them, but Kaity seemed to be a tenacious, feisty individual who screamed and hollered and resisted, and the result being, by Kaity's account, being thrust into this room.
The secret chamber, say cops, could have been used on other kids as well. It's so well concealed, even FBI experts were astounded at the incredible steps it took to descend the labyrinth where Kaity was confined, sometimes chained around the neck like a dog.
He has a piece of Velcro on the top of this linoleum piece now, and a matching piece on the wall so that he could lift it. And concealed above in this hanger system, you'd have to look for it and pull it down, is another hook. Now that hook is actually attached to metal bars that are hidden in the ceiling above that bridge the gap for stability. There is tape on the chain. We only speculate that that tape is to stop the chain from jangling, maybe perhaps not to let someone know he was now opening it. It would be difficult to just simply lift this thing. It would get binded or it would tilt the wrong way. But Mr. Esposito figured out a way of easily doing this.
It's a 7-foot drop from there to another tiny passageway underneath. Then another locked door held Kaity prisoner by clasps and more bolts. Kaity spent her days and nights with only a small heater, a ventilation pipe, salami sandwiches and pizza. When she couldn't reach a makeshift toilet rigged with plastic bags, she relieved herself inside the small sleeping compartment. Her only light came from the TV, the soundproofing so effective no one could hear her pounding on the walls and screaming, even while police were examining the house, seen on closed-circuit TV. What may be bloodstains are now being analyzed to see if other children may have used the bed covers or possibly have been held captive here.
Now there you'll see the room is lined with soundproofing, totally soundproof, caulking as well as foam rubber. We had an officer go down there, and without putting the concrete slab on the top, he yelled, and we could not hear him. That is the TV that Kaity was able to view, and that was our only contact with the outside world.
Esposito, say cops, apparently acted alone in Kaity's abduction, forced her to record a tape saying she was kidnapped, and coerced her to possibly write the runaway note to the Ingaleri family. Hardened cops shook their heads watching today's tape and summed it up with one word: diabolical. From Long Island, Drew Scott, Channel 11 News at 10.
Doctors discharged Kaity Beers from Long Island Jewish Hospital last night, and she is now being held in an undisclosed location. Tonight, she was reunited with her mother for a brief visit. Meanwhile, the battle for custody of Kaity Beers is already underway. Social workers say Kaity will undergo psychiatric counseling and will be placed in a temporary foster home. Earlier today, Katie's mother, accompanied by her brother and grandmother, went to family court in Central Islip to try to regain permanent custody of the child. Doug O'Connor's Katie's law guardian. He says he'll decide whether to fight the family's request after he has a chance to talk to Kaity.
And to speak with the child, and if we find that she's in imminent danger or risk to go, if she goes back to the home, we would probably go along with the county's suggestion that she stay in foster care until we determine if there's an appropriate place with appropriate services where she'll be all right.
Given what you know, are you concerned about the possibility of she being returned to her biological mother?
Well, everything we know of right now is things I've read in the news, and of course there's plenty of concern.
Meanwhile, calls are pouring in from all over the country with offers of toys, money, even adoption for young Kaity. John Esposito remains in jail tonight, is being held on $500,000 bond. He's charged with second-degree kidnapping.
A jilted lover under arrest tonight in yesterday's murder of a woman and her 10-year-old son. Police say 29-year-old Alejandra Fernandez killed Maria Perez in a fit of jealousy and then turned the gun on her child. Both were found dead yesterday in their West Side apartment, shot once each in the head. Police say Perez tried to leave Fernandez and return to her estranged husband, and that was what sparked that shooting.
It was 2 years ago this very night that Operation Desert Storm began, and once again tonight, Saddam Hussein is toying with the United Nations and dancing on the brink of another conflict. Before leaving for Camp David today, President Bush set another deadline for Iraq. He said UN weapons inspectors must be allowed to land inside Iraq.
And the United Nations has informed Saddam Hussein that if flight clearance is not granted by 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, Iraq will be in non-compliance.
It wasn't until after 3 o'clock this afternoon the UN got its answer. The planes could land, but Iraq will not guarantee their safety. That wasn't good enough for the United Nations.
Are we prepared to send 50, 60 people up in an aircraft with this total denial of any responsibility?
Iraqi officials say they cannot guarantee the skies over Iraq are safe with all the American warplanes in the air.
What do we do? I mean, we are left with no other option, because as long as there are military flights over the country, we cannot guarantee the safety of those planes.
The White House says Iraq is now in non-compliance, but would not say whether another strike is forthcoming. The White House also said President Bush is consulting with the Allies and that no further warning will be given before any future airstrikes. Kaity?
The Coast Guard is taking drastic measures tonight to stop the exodus of boat people from Haiti. Our government has intercepted more than 900 Haitians from boats so far this year, and they expect a major exodus of refugees once President-elect Clinton takes office. So the government has announced a new plan of attack called Operation Able Manor. 20 Coast Guard vessels will surround Haiti and steer the boats back to shore. President-elect Clinton announced yesterday that he will honor the Bush administration policy on Haitian boat people to discourage the refugees. That breaks a campaign promise. And tonight, Mr. Clinton is being blasted by the ACLU. Estimates say there are hundreds of boats poised on the shores of Haiti awaiting the inauguration. Clinton taped a special broadcast message to the Haitian people yesterday, urging them to stay home. Well, 2 off-duty cops have been shot tonight in East New York. Both are now at Brookdale Hospital, where Jason Carroll is standing by live. Jason, what happened?
Kaity, 2 police officers are in stable condition here at Brookdale Hospital with gunshot wounds to the legs. Both were off-duty. They were injured trying to stop a robbery at a barber shop where they were getting a haircut. Police say the incident happening inside this Pennsylvania Avenue barber shop in East New York, Brooklyn. Now, 3 suspects entered the shop around 7 o'clock tonight, brandishing guns. Apparently, they were ready to rob the place. 3 officers were inside when the incident happened. One East New York resident who was out there describing what she heard during the entire incident.
I was just sitting by my window and I heard the shots ring out, like at least 15. And then I looked out the window and I saw the cop cars coming around and coming down Hegeman. And then as the cops were leaving from the scene, I heard them, I guess, talking to Central, and they asked him, what do you have? And he said, at least 2 cops down.
The 3 officers and the 3 armed men exchanged shots. Police officer John Morris was shot in the right thigh. He's assigned to the 67th precinct. He's a 25-year-old, 3-year veteran of the department. Police officer Richard Avias, 24 years of age, is also a 3-year veteran of the department. He's also assigned to the 67th precinct. He was shot in the right thigh. Both officers are in stable condition at Brookdale Hospital.
As you saw on the tape there, Mayor Dinkins was on hand to lend support to the officers' families. There are the 3 suspects have been arrested at this point, and that is basically the story from this end. Live from Brooklyn, I'm Jason Carroll. Let's go back to Jack and Kaity in the studio.
Jason, thank you. There was another police shooting. Officers shot in the thigh today during a wild shootout in Harlem with some suspected robbers. 26-year-old officer Ralph Vitacco was on foot patrol. He saw 3 suspects run out of a Red Apple supermarket on West 145th Street. The officer ordered the men to stop. More officers began arriving, and the shootout began. Police say the 2 sides fired more than 24 shots between them. 2 suspects are under arrest tonight. The 3rd got away. Officer Vitacco's in stable condition at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. Some new developments in the controversy over the St. Patrick's Day parade. The Hibernians are moving in federal court to try to get back the parade permit they lost for refusing to allow a homosexual group to march. Barry Cunningham has more.
There are indications now that Archbishop John Cardinal O'Connor and the Ancient Order of Hibernians may be winning their battle to ban Irish lesbians and gays from this year's St. Patrick's Day parade. It's been revealed that the judge who may rule on the controversy requested and was granted a secret audience with the Cardinal at his residence to try to work out a settlement. The meeting infuriated the gay community.
I was very disturbed that the judge, who I know to be a very fair judge, had met with the Cardinal, because the Cardinal has no standing in this case.
Mayor Dinkins has stripped the Hibernians of their police parade permit and awarded it to a newly created committee that welcomes homosexual in the parade. But there are signs that the new St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee may be caving in to the Hibernians.
Do the Hibernians now want to change their mind and seek the parade again? At the moment, we don't have an answer from him.
If the answer is yes,
then we have agreed to call an emergency meeting.
Hibernian lawyer John Hale says Catholic marchers are boycotting the gay parade in favor of the traditional salute to St. Patrick.
They said, we will not go against our church. As far as I can see, the other parade is going to have these groups. 1, the gays. 2, the IRA. And I suspect 3, some FBI agents trailing the IRA.
While the judge is yet to decide the case, the Hibernians have picked up public support from 3 prominent liberal voices. The American Civil Liberties Union and the editorial boards of the New York Times and New York Newsday have all endorsed Cardinal O'Connor's position that Catholics can honor a Catholic saint by excluding anyone they want to exclude from their parade. On Fifth Avenue, Barry Cunningham, Channel 11, News at 10.
And the controversy over the St. Patrick's Day parade is the subject of tomorrow morning's 11 News Close-Up. Hibernian lawyer John Hale and ILGO representative Paul O'Dwyer will square off over who is to blame for the entire parade flap.
This is a joyous occasion. It should be a joyous occasion.
It absolutely should.
It has been until your arrival. Until your arrival.
The St. Patrick's Day parade in New York was started by Protestant reformers protesting discrimination against Irish people in the 18th century in New York. It wasn't started by Catholics.
11 News Close-Up airs tomorrow morning on Channel 11 at 9 o'clock.
There's a lot more news ahead tonight. A shocking scene in a Florida courtroom as the men accused of attacking a Brooklyn man and setting him on fire laugh at their arraignment.
In Sicily, Italian police arrest the boss of bosses, the head of the Corleone family, after a 20-year manhunt.
Speaking publicly for the first time, hockey great Mario Lemieux describes his first reaction to the news he had been diagnosed with cancer.
Accused of setting fire to a black man from Brooklyn were in court today. 2 of them were laughing in the courtroom while they claimed they're innocent. The suspects exchanged jokes before pleading innocent to robbing and setting fire to Christopher Wilson in what police are calling a bias attack. The 3rd suspect has not entered a plea as yet. Wilson, meanwhile, is recovering from burns at a Florida hospital.
Fire officials rushed to an Upper East Side building that threatened to collapse. All the residents are evacuated tonight, averting what could have been a major disaster. The building at 232 East 80th Street suffering structural damage after a small gas explosion in the basement there earlier this week. The people who live there, shaken and upset, kept warm in a city bus. They're going to be put up at a hotel on the west side while that building is being investigated.
Oscar-winning songwriter Sammy Cahn is dead tonight. Cahn died of a heart attack in Los Angeles. He was 79 years old. Ed Miller has a retrospective on his life and his lyrics.
Dates, time, I roam.
My Kind of Town, just one of dozens of unforgettable Sammy Cahn songs. In 4 decades of songwriting for Hollywood, Broadway, and the radio, Cahn brought us songs like 3 Coins in a Fountain, High Hopes, Call Me Irresponsible, Love and Marriage, and Pocketful of Miracles. Sammy Cahn died tonight in Los Angeles, but he was a New Yorker through and through. He was born here with the name Samuel Cohen and began his musical career as a kid by playing the violin at weddings, bar mitzvahs, even at burlesque houses. By the time he reached the age of 16, he had already written his first popular song lyric. In his heyday, Cahn wrote so many songs for Frank Sinatra that he earned the reputation as the singer's personal lyricist, playing even on Sinatra's amateur softball team called the Swooners. Sammy Cahn and music composer Julie Stein together turned out close to 1 1,000 songs.
He loved writing. Actually, Sammy never wrote with a pencil in his life. He always went right to the typewriter and then he started. You start in the middle of the sentence.
Big band pop singer Margaret Whiting says Sammy Cahn wrote the kind of lyrics singers love.
He knew the words that would be easy to sing and that would flow naturally and would tell a story. So when you picked up one of his songs, I mean, it made a lot of sense. It sang itself.
Sammy Cahn once boasted of writing the lyrics to one of his hits in just 10 minutes. He won Academy Awards and created the Songwriters Hall of Fame. His legacy, much more than just words and music, hummable American classics. Ed Miller, Channel 11 News at 10.
Italian police say they've arrested the most powerful mafia figure in their country, the boss of bosses, a man who's eluded the law for more than 2 decades. 62-year-old Salvatore Rina was arrested today at a roadblock during rush hour in the Sicilian capital Palermo. They say he is the head of the mafia's notorious Corleone crime family and the chairman of the commission responsible for running various mafia clans. Among other things, Rina will be charged with the car bomb deaths last year of 2 judges famous for prosecuting organized crime figures.
Next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, Channel 11 will present a special 2-hour investigation into the status of organized crime around the world. It's called The New Godfathers. Geraldo Rivera is the host, and it'll be broadcast live from Sicily, where today's major mafia arrest happened. Marvin Scott talked to Geraldo about the special earlier today.
Geraldo Rivera, whose investigative team has spent 6 months preparing the special The New Godfathers, says the arrest of Salvatore Rina is a landmark, the most significant action against the mob ever scored by the Italian government. But even with his arrest and the imprisonment of Godfather John Gotti and other mob biggies, Rivera says organized crime is still flourishing.
I believe it's even more powerful, and I'll tell you why. We proved conclusively in the special, in the live special, that the traditional mob, La Cosa Nostra, the Mafia, is now working in league with, hand in glove, with some of the other emerging ethnically based crime groups.
And in his special, Rivera reports the newfound freedom in Russia has seen the emergence of a powerful Russian mob.
Many of them have come here. They're in and around Little Odessa, Brighton Beach and Brooklyn. There have been a bunch of murders. I forget the exact total. I think it's 12 murders in just the last couple of months in Brighton Beach. They're taking over prostitution, gambling, extortion, the other rackets, drug distribution there.
In the United States, Rivera tracks down some of the people who are now playing leading roles in organized crime in this country. On the East Coast, undercover cameras track down the man who is believed to be Philadelphia's new godfather.
Can I speak with you a second? Get out of here from my place. Can I speak with you? Get out of here. Can I speak with you just for a minute, then? Get out of here from my place.
And in New York, Rivera follows another man who just may fill John Gotti's shoes.
His name is Vinny the Chin Gigante. This is no Dapper Don. This exclusive footage shows the Chin acting out what the feds call a clever charade. The authorities tell us that he walks around in this bathrobe and slipper in broad daylight, hoping to convince those tailing him that he's just a nutty old man.
Despite his revelations, Rivera says he doesn't believe the mob will try to silence him. But when he reports live from Sicily next Wednesday at 8, he will be wearing a bulletproof vest and will be shielded by a heavily armed contingent of Italian police and soldiers. This is Marvin Scott for the Channel 11 News at 10.
Still ahead tonight on the News at 10. Scientists from around the world are sent running for their lives as a volcano erupts suddenly in Colombia.
It's only January, but already there is concern about the status of area beaches for the coming summer. We'll tell you why.
And we'll bring you up to date on the story that's become an obsession in South America, the real-life murder of a soap opera star by her TV co-star. When we come back. Until it can be challenged in court. The controversial amendment would have barred gay civil rights legislation and overturned existing gay rights laws. It was scheduled to go into effect at midnight tonight, but now it faces a legal battle from gay activists. Jack?
The White House says tonight it will comply with the judge's order not to destroy any computer records dealing with the Iran-Contra affair. The Justice Department says destroying all records is simply part of the transition of President Bush handing over the White House to Bill Clinton. The court, though, doesn't agree. Marlon Fitzwater says all the records are safe.
The UN Secretary General is giving Serbia just 6 more days to accept the peace plan for Bosnia or face tougher sanctions. Meanwhile, the carnage continues in Sarajevo. Artillery attacks on the downtown section killing 7 people. Most of the victims were lined up to buy water when the shells hit. And hundreds more crammed into buses trying to run away from the besieged city. Heavy fighting reported elsewhere in the country. In Colombia, a scientific study of a volcano by a group of world experts turned deadly as the volcano suddenly erupted, killing at least 9 people and injuring 7 other people, including 3 Americans. The Galeras volcano, about 30 miles from the Ecuador border, was the site of an international study of volcanoes when it erupted. Hot rocks and debris shot 1.5 miles into the air, struck the victims near the rim of the crater. Rescue efforts have been suspended for fear of another eruption. The 3 Americans' injuries are apparently not life-threatening.
Crews were scheduled to begin dredging Newark Bay today, but now the plan has been put on hold. The EPA first wants to know more about toxic sludge lying beneath the water's surface. New Jersey correspondent Veronica Mitchell reports.
And my idea of dumping dioxin off of Sandy Hook is insane. We have enough problems here with medical waste. And,
Robert Nelson began surfing in the ocean waters off Sandy Hook 15 years ago, but he doubts he will be hanging 10 here 15 years from now if the Port Authority goes ahead with plans to dump dioxin-laced silt just 6 miles offshore.
They dump trash 106 miles off. We still have problems with that every time we have a northeast or east wind. When the wind's on shore, it blows the garbage right up, and dioxin is no different.
The Port Authority plans to dredge the silt and sand building up and clogging important shipping berths at Port Newark Elizabeth and dump the material off Sandy Hook. Port Authority officials planned on starting the dredging today, but the plan ran aground when the EPA suddenly suspended the agency's permit for the project. At issue is the amount of the tainted silt the Port Authority plans to dredge from the port and dump here off Sandy Hook. The EPA says Port Authority officials only applied for permission to dump 200,000 cubic yards of the contaminated sludge off the shoreline. But their permit, issued just days ago by the Army Corps of Engineers, allows them to dump more than double that amount.
It's not unusual to see some additions to the amount depending on the lag time from when you originally did your first testing. 2.5 times the amount raised the question with us.
It's a serious problem because we have to anticipate the needs of the liner community who bring cargo ships into this harbor. We don't want to lose their business. We don't want to see the longshore workforce or the warehouse or other operating elements of this harbor unemployed.
Environmental groups and the federal government, usually at odds with each other on this issue, make for the strangest of bedfellows.
It's unprecedented that EPA has said no to a dredging project. It has never done that before, so it's encouraging that they've taken that initiative, but it certainly doesn't halt the project forever.
Sandy Hook will remain silt-free at least until next week. That's when the EPA and the PA will sit down once again to determine if the Jersey shore can survive one more toxic tide. In Sandy Hook, I'm Veronica Mitchell, Channel 11 News at 10.
All right, when the Channel 11 News at 10 continues tonight, the weekend, it is here, and Bob has a forecast for us.
Some city school kids get to join in on the mission of the Space Shuttle Endeavour.
And we'll talk with some of the Broadway stars who'll be heading to Washington to take part in Bill Clinton's Inauguration Fest.
Windsor Castle, that is, reopens to the public tomorrow with a brand new attraction. Tourists will be able to see much of the damage left by a raging fire that gutted parts of the castle 2 months ago. Special glass doors and a closed-circuit TV have been installed for viewing the destruction. Visitors to the Queen's favorite home will have access to 11 of the 15 staterooms previously on display. Estimates of the cost of restoration have been put at £60 million. That's about $90 million.
In South America, Brazil remains captivated about the bizarre murder of a soap opera actress. The killer is believed to be the victim's co-star and on-screen lover. It's a story that won't go away as it brings to light a very serious problem among women in Brazil. Marina Mirabella has more.
Soap star Daniela Perez has become more famous in death than she ever was in life. Her gruesome murder 2 weeks ago has both shocked and fascinated Brazilians who can't get enough of this story. The soap opera in which Perez appeared is now drawing a record number of viewers. 50 million people are tuning in every night to watch the final scenes she taped before her murder. And the Brazilian media is playing this sensational story for all it's worth. Papers have published the astrological charts of those involved. Television stations are using dramatic reenactments. They show Guilherme de Padua and his jealous wife luring Daniela Perez to a remote side road and stabbing her to death. The police investigators in this case have become celebrities, appearing daily before the media with new tidbits of information and carrying out their own reenactments of the crime in front of dozens of TV cameras. The media coverage has also brought into sharp focus the broader problem of violence against women in Brazil. Every year, hundreds of women are disfigured or murdered by jealous husbands or boyfriends. Many of these crimes go unpunished. The Perez murder has renewed calls for the death penalty. The actress's fans have taken to the streets demanding justice. Too many men get away with this kind of brutality, says this woman. It won't happen this time. It's the poor who seem to be the hardest hit by the Perez murder. For them, television is the only form of entertainment, and many feel as if they've lost a member of the family. Every day they come to the scene of the murder with prayers for the dead actress. Although actor Guilherme de Padua has confessed to killing Daniela Perez, his motive for the murder is still unclear. Brazilians hope the trial, expected to begin in a few months, will resolve the unanswered questions. The intense public interest guarantees it will be one of Brazil's most sensational murder trials ever. Marina Mirabella, Rio de Janeiro.
Astronauts aboard the space shuttle have been given their most playful assignment yet. In the interest of science, Mission Control ordered today, play with those toys. Doesn't look very scientific, but the crew is spinning tops and playing basketball to try to teach American school children something about physics. With a TV hookup, kids at 4 schools around the country watch the crew working hard at playing. The lesson shows how objects behave in zero gravity.
And some of those kids looking for the right stuff are right here in New York. Bronx school children learning a lesson from an astronaut who brought the stars to his own former classroom. Mary Snow was there as people in high places played with toys to teach a lesson.
It was a physics class they won't forget. Students at the Sacred Heart School made history inside these hallways. Learning about the universe until now came from books like these. But Mario Runco, class of 1966, helped change all that. He brought the universe to his alma mater, beaming in from high above the Earth aboard the space shuttle Endeavour, the school banner prominently hanging behind him.
Good afternoon to all the students at my old school, Sacred Heart, Savant.
6 kids got to ask Lieutenant Commando Runco questions from their crowded Bronx classroom. He used a toy police car, since he used to be a New Jersey state trooper, to teach kids about gravity in space.
My name is Tony Belafonte. We would like to know, what will the car do if you just let it go in the air?
Tony, that's a very good question.
Simple prop for this very elaborate hookup. NASA's been working with the students since September, trying to get it off the ground. It launched without a hitch.
For a once-in-a-lifetime lesson, the students here at the Sacred Heart School in the Bronx teamed up with 3 other schools across the nation in a direct link-up with the Space Shuttle Endeavour. The astronauts pitching in to give a high-tech lesson and not only taught about science, but about making dreams come true.
It makes me feel like if he had a dream to be an astronaut, it makes me feel that I could be whatever I want. He's just an ordinary person like us, so he just teaches us that if you want to be something, just put your mind to it and you can do it.
But science was not lost among these students, and that was NASA's hope, to get kids interested in the subject at an early age. And these would-be astronauts are aiming high.
I would like to be the first kid up in space.
I want to be the first zoologist in space.
The ability to be able to link up a classroom here on Earth with the shuttle outside the atmosphere was just amazing to me. And seeing so many things not work around here in our neighborhood, it was amazing to know there were no technical problems, there was no difficulties, everything just worked.
All in all, the space encounter lasted less than an hour for these children, but those around them in the Bronx hope it'll be an encounter that makes a lasting impression. Mary Snow for the Channel 11 News at 10.
It's not the kind of physics class I remember.
No, I don't remember those either. That's really thrilling.
It really is. Still ahead, we have a lot more news for you, including some New York kids who are spending this weekend getting ready for a trip to the nation's capital to sing for the new president.
And if your weekend plans include a movie, critic Gene Siskel has some suggestions on what you might want to see. Oh, I saw that one. It's very good.
Part of his budget proposal next week. Added to the current tax of 39 cents a pack, 60 cents a pack would give New York the highest cigarette tax in the nation. Go along with all the other high taxes here. The higher tax would generate an additional $180 million and would be the largest source of new revenue in the budget. On Wall Street, the trading week closed on an up note today. The Dow Jones Industrials picked up 3¼ points. The market gained almost 20 points for the week. Advancing stocks led declines 2-1 today, and trading was very heavy, 306 million shares.
Mayor David Dinkins today calling for racial harmony between blacks and Jews at an affair honoring Martin Luther King Jr. Dinkins referred to the crowd to Crown Heights while speaking at the breakfast at the Waldorf Astoria hosted by the NAACP. Often quoting King, he said, races make little distinction between Jews and blacks.
family, and both of us, caring not at all which of us falls. And certainly what Dr. King says is true. That's why, now more than ever, good people of every race, creed, ethnicity, and sexual orientation must come together to build a just society. And that's why we must stand up and proclaim the ideals for which Dr. King worked, lived, and died.
And Joyce Dinkins received an award for her attention to racial and social issues.
Inaugural fever is gripping the nation's capital. Preparations are in high gear for next week's big event. Almost ready, Bill Clinton's seats for the inaugural parade. And, of course, there are the floral arrangements. 200,000 stems of flowers and greenery that will become centerpieces for all the dinners and balls around town. On the mall, tents are in place for the Clinton Gore Festival. And along the parade route, the bunting's going up, $500,000 worth. An official souvenir store and street vendors are already open for business, and they're getting ready for big-name talent to perform. Names as big as Michael Jackson will be on hand next week. Out on the West Coast, Fleetwood Mac is rehearsing, getting ready for the inauguration. The rock group will be reunited to sing Clinton's unofficial campaign song, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. And a bit later in this broadcast, we'll meet some New Yorkers who are headed down to the nation's capital next week for the big event.
That's right. Well, I can't stop thinking about tomorrow because tomorrow is Saturday.
Yes.
I'm very, very happy it's here.
You're worried about the weather, too, aren't you?
Indeed,
the sun will shine tomorrow? We had a little bit of sunshine today. A little bit dim.
Dim sun. Yeah,
dim sun.
A glimpse. Let's not
Well,
get
we're going to talk about how much sunshine's on tap for the weekend, dim or not, and a look ahead to the weather even into early next week, and even the weather for the big games in San Francisco and in Miami. All that straight ahead. Welcome back, everybody. Finally got to see a little bit of sun after 7 days in a row without any appreciable sunshine. Right now, there are broken clouds overhead and some stars peeking through. There's the Chrysler Building as seen from across the river out in Queens. And here in Midtown right now up in Central Park, our present readings are 35 degrees, the humidity at 72%, the dew point at 27 degrees, and the winds are west at 8, the barometer 30.14 and falling, and it is currently partly cloudy here in New York. Got up to 40 this afternoon with a little boost of the sun, and we had exactly 2 hours worth of sunshine according to the sunshine recorder in Central Park. 2/100ths of an inch of rain and snow fell just after midnight, but I don't think we're going to see any precip for a while, thank goodness. 7:18, the sun comes up tomorrow, and be there for it because it'll look good and feel good. Sunshine and sunrise tomorrow. The big picture, well, you can see some patches in the overcast here, some breaks, these little holes that pop through here as slightly drier air has been moving into our region on westerly winds. That drying trend is going to continue and these clouds are going to dissipate. Right now, we are a little bit concerned about a large area of precipitation over the southeastern part of the country. Heavy rains down here. Orlando just had about an inch of rain in the past 6 hours, and that precip is moving up with a storm off the southeast coast. We think that it's going to make a right-hand turn at about Norfolk and move out to sea. So we think it'll stay south of us. Big rains are back out in the west again. It's raining heavily in California now with snows in the Sierra. That onslaught of precipitation continues out there, and there'll be rain for San Francisco in the game on Sunday out there, while I think there'll be lots of sunshine for the game in Miami on Sunday. So they're looking good down in Florida. They can use that, too. Temperatures tonight, cooling down. Big chill comes into town. Readings in the upper 20s here in the city, teens in the suburbs. And tomorrow, partly to mostly cloudy early, and then the sun will come through big time. Some sunshine at last, the highs in the low 40s. So Saturday, we've got a mix of clouds and sun coming up, accentuating the positive because we're looking for positive now. And Sunday, mostly sunny and 42 degrees, and it gets colder early next week. But notice, no rain, no sleet, and no snow next 5 days. Put it in the book.
It's about time. Yesterday was dim sun, tomorrow will be some sun.
Some sun! It's a big boost.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And another weekend is indeed here, and if you'd like to see a good movie, well, you have plenty of choices. Here's Gene Siskel now to guide you through tonight's weekend picks.
What to see this weekend? I like Hoffa with Jack Nicholson's superb performance as the embattled labor leader. Director Danny DeVito doesn't pull any punches in describing James R. Hoffa as both a passionate defender of the working man as well as a corrupt deal-maker with the mob.
We have led the Teamsters, and the Teamsters have led the American working man into the middle class. And, buddy, we intend to stay here.
I also like Louis Malle's Damage, an R-rated tale of sexual obsession with Jeremy Irons playing a British politician who unbelievably has an affair with his son's girlfriend, played by Juliette Binoche. She's had a troubled life, she explains, which makes her dangerous. She's got little to lose.
Remember, damaged people are dangerous.
I know they can survive.
I'm also recommending Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino in a great performance as an irascible, blind, retired military man who spends a wild weekend in New York under the supervision of a timid prep school student.
Are you like a rich miser or something?
No, I'm just your average blind man.
Your average blind man. How do you plan on paying for all this stuff?
Crisp, clean dollars. American. I saved up my disability checks.
Hoffa, Damage, Scent of a Woman. 3 very different films, each worth taking in this weekend. I'm Gene Siskel.
You said you liked Scent of a Woman. You saw it.